Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. Have you ever thought about just how fragile the world really is? Like how close we could be to something truly awful?
Yeah, it's kind of unsettling when you really start to consider it.
Well, today we are diving deep into a story that explores just how easily everything we know could fall apart, a geopolitical thriller where one wrong move could spark a global catastrophe.
Exactly. Think like high stakes espionage, political maneuvering, and the fate of nations hanging in the balance.
That's right. So consider this your guided tour into the shadowy world of the Beijing Betrayal by Joel C. Rosenberg.
Oh, Rosenberg, he knows how to craft a good thriller.
Right. Mark Greaney even called him a master of taut, intelligent thrillers.
And Publishers Weekly, they said his books are unputdownable.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So if you are ready to explore a world full of secret deals, covert ops, and a fight against a truly unimaginable threat, then buckle up.
We're going deep.
Oh yeah. And if you enjoy this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into these gripping stories. There's also a link in the description where you can snag a copy of the book.
All right, so let's jump right in.
Okay, so the book immediately throws you into this tense international climate, especially between the U.S. and China. It's really fragile even after President Hernandez and President Guangzong had this big summit supposedly focused on counterterrorism.
And what's really interesting to consider from the get-go is how easily that facade of cooperation could crumble. Because beneath those diplomatic handshakes, Rosenberg introduces a major wild card. Vice President Ben Ming in Taiwan.
Right, what do you think?
He's a strong advocate for Taiwanese independence and looks poised to win the upcoming elections.
Which obviously Beijing sees as a huge problem.
A direct challenge to their whole reunification goal. It's a major turning point in the story.
Oh, absolutely. And President Guangzong's response, well, it's not exactly measured or diplomatic. This is where the story takes a dark turn. He essentially abandons decades of trying to peacefully bring Taiwan back into the fold.
Gone.
Just like that. Instead, he gives the green light for a full-on military takeover. And get this, the timeline is incredibly short, around March 1st.
So swift and decisive. And when you look at it from Beijing's perspective, Ming's potential victory really represents a direct threat to their core national interests. We're talking territorial integrity, regional influence, the whole 9 yards. This sudden shift to a military solution, especially one planned so quickly, really speaks to a sense of urgency, almost desperation within the Chinese leadership.
Right, and the book highlights this really critical vulnerability for Taiwan. Their air defenses are simply no match for China's new hypersonic missiles.
And then there's the cyber attacks.
Oh yeah, they're facing the very real possibility of crippling cyber attacks, which really paints a picture of a swift and potentially overwhelming assault.
Overwhelming is a good word for it.
And that's not even the worst part. The next step Guangzong takes is absolutely chilling. He doesn't just plan a military invasion, he orders a decapitation strike against the Taiwanese government.
Just like that.
And this is where it gets truly terrifying. He wants to use tactical nuclear warheads. He's actually targeting the main military command center and Taipei.
The fact that they would even consider using tactical nuclear weapons really raises some serious questions about how Beijing assesses risk. It suggests they're willing to gamble on a massive escalation, potentially facing global condemnation and a much wider conflict.
All for this one objective in Taiwan.
It's a chilling thought.
It really is. And as all this is brewing in the Pacific, there's another incredibly sinister plot unfolding this time, involving a shadowy terrorist leader named Abu Nakba.
And this is where things get really interesting because you have state-level aggression colliding with non-state terrorism. Abu Nakba, the leader of the Cairo's terrorist organization, forms an alliance with Dai Wangchu, who is China's Minister of State Security.
So right off the bat, this isn't just a random act of terror.
This is a coordinated effort. It suggests that these two threats, which might seem separate, are actually interconnected in some really dangerous ways. Both sides see a strategic advantage in working together.
And this Abu Nakba, he's not some small-time player.
No, he's not.
He's portrayed as a seasoned terrorist with a long and bloody history.
He has this deep resentment towards American intelligence agencies. He actually calls them the Janet Langley.
The Janet Langley?
Yeah, he uses that term because he's failed time and again to achieve his goals against them.
So he's got a grudge.
Oh, a major one. And when you look at his track record, it's pretty terrifying. The attacks in Chicago targeting iconic landmarks like the Sears Tower, the use of dirty bombs, the near miss on both the Pope and the U.S. president, the assassinations of the U.S. National Security Advisor and the American ambassador of Russia, and even the kidnapping of a CIA operative, it's a clear pattern of ambitious and highly disruptive operations. All those setbacks at the hands of American intelligence, well, they fueled a burning desire for revenge.
Wow, so it's not just about causing chaos then.
No, this alliance with China is centered around something truly horrific. A bioweapon code-named Cerberus.
Cerberus.
The way Cerberus is described is deeply disturbing. It's a genocidal virus perfected by Abu Nakba's team. But what makes this even more terrifying is China's plan to mass produce it. They've got this pharmaceutical plant in India, and their goal is to unleash Cerberus on the United States right before they invade Taiwan.
So it's a 1-2 punch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the method of delivery, well, it's incredibly deceptive. They're planning to use everyday Indian aerosol products, making it seem totally harmless.
So insidious.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about how vulnerable we all are.
Definitely.
So as these two massive threats are converging, we meet the protagonist who's going to try to stop it all, Marcus Ryker.
Marcus Ryker is a diplomatic security service/CIA operative. He leads this dedicated team, including Peter Huang, Jeff Stone, Kalea Curtis, and tragically, the late Jenny Morris. They're the ones on the front lines facing these incredible dangers head-on.
And their mission takes them to Karachi, Pakistan, where they're targeting Abu Nakba at a liquefied natural gas facility.
This isn't your average operation.
No, it's not. They're using satellite imagery to gather intelligence, followed by a very risky infiltration. They use an ASDV, a swimmer delivery vehicle, and then make a beach landing at Hawke's Bay. You can tell from the start that this is a meticulously planned and incredibly dangerous mission.
Right, and that level of detail really emphasizes just how complex and risky these covert operations are.
They rely on precise intelligence, specialized skills.
You can tell these guys are the best of the best.
For sure. But then things get complicated because Pakistani officials show up unexpectedly.
Which throws a huge wrench into their plans. Suddenly, they have to deal with potential political fallout on top of everything else. It's a reminder that these operations never happen in a vacuum.
And then they discover something inside the facility that is truly disturbing.
Stomach churning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They find a secret underground laboratory where horrific experiments have been taking place.
On monkeys and humans.
The book describes the victims in detail. The monkeys and the humans. Pakistani women and one man. They've all bled out with their faces and torsos basically eaten away. It's a glimpse into just how horrifying this Cerberus virus really is.
Yeah, it's a detail that sticks with you.
And unfortunately, the Karachi operation comes at a terrible cost.
Right.
Jenny Morris is killed during the mission, and the rest of the team barely escapes before the whole facility explodes. The book really captures the weight of that loss, especially for Marcus.
Losing a team member in such a brutal way would undoubtedly leave a scar on anyone. For Marcus, it adds this emotional depth to his character and probably fuels his determination in the missions that follow.
It's a reminder of the very real human costs of this line of work.
It really is.
And the fallout from the Karachi operation is immediate and intense.
Oh, yeah. President Hernandez is furious. He's angry about the public exposure of the incident and the fact that Abu Nakba got away. It leads to a very tense meeting between him, Marcus, and Annie Stewart.
So despite the team discovering the Cerberus virus, President Hernandez actually threatens to remove Marcus from command.
That's cold.
A total betrayal. But Marcus stands his ground, he defends his team, and really lets the president know how much Jenny's death has affected him.
You can feel the emotion there. It makes Marcus a much more relatable character in this high-stakes world. It shows how even in this world of espionage and counterterrorism, these are real people with real feelings.
So amidst all this turmoil, a potential new source of intelligence emerges. Oleg Kraskin.
Now, Kraskin is the son-in-law of the late Russian president Alexander Lubanov. He's currently living in exile in Aston, Colorado.
In Aspen.
Yep. And the CIA becomes very interested in him. They're hoping that his connections might provide some insight into any Russian involvement with the Kairos organization.
Adding another layer to this whole web of intrigue.
Layers upon layers.
So Marcus decides to pay Kraskin a visit in Aspen and finds him to be pretty disillusioned and isolated. It seems life in exile hasn't been easy for him.
Which could make him more willing to talk. You know, someone in his position with his connections, he could provide a unique perspective into the Kremlin's dealings both officially and unofficially.
And this is where Annie Stewart really shines.
She's good.
She uses her intelligence skills to track down Kraskin's actual hiding place, which turns out to be Cuba.
Well, he's back.
Yep. And then she negotiates a deal with Nikolai Kropotkin, the former head of the FSB, the Russian intelligence agency, the terms. Actionable intelligence on Abu Nakba in exchange for Kraskin's safety and a new life.
It's a classic intelligence trade-off, high stakes and morally ambiguous. The fact that Annie can locate Kraskin in a clandestine location and then broker this deal with a former adversary like Kropotkin really demonstrates her exceptional skills.
With time running out, Marcus and Pete find themselves on a secret mission to Mexico City. They believe Abu Nakba might show up there before Secretary of State Dayton arrives.
Always staying one step ahead.
They're trying to. Then comes a pivotal moment. An emergency meeting at the White House. Nikolai Kropotkin drops a bombshell. He confirms that China is about to invade Taiwan and provides all the details about the Cerberus plot.
It's the moment that connects all the dots.
It really is. And Marcus doesn't hold back. He urges President Hernandez to take immediate action. He recommends a massive military deployment to the Pacific to deter China and a decisive strike to neutralize Abu Nakba and the Cerberus threat.
Even with their previous disagreements, Marcus is completely straightforward with the president. His recommendations show just how serious the situation is.
And this leads to a desperate mission, infiltrating the pharmaceutical plant in the remote Kerala backwaters of India, where Cerberus is being produced.
A direct military intervention in India, a sovereign nation. That shows how desperate the situation is.
They arrive stealthily aboard the USS Maine, a nuclear submarine. They're going up against heavily armed Kairos operatives and even Chinese PLA soldiers. It's a full-on confrontation in enemy territory.
Sending a nuclear submarine like the USS Maine really emphasizes how crucial this mission is. They're pulling out all the stops.
Absolutely. And a fierce firefight breaks out inside the dormitory and then spreads throughout the whole plant. The book puts you right in the middle of the action.
You can feel the tension.
Oh yeah, the stakes are incredibly high.
It really showcases the brutal reality of fighting terrorism and state-sponsored threats.
In the chaos, Abu Nakba tries to escape,
Of course he does.
leading to a tense pursuit that ends in a showdown at the plant's airfield.
It becomes personal for Ryker. Not only does he want to stop the threat, but he wants to bring the mastermind to justice.
And just when you think it's over, General Mahmoud Antizam and his Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps guards try to escape from the airfield too.
Another twist.
But Marcus's team manages to stop them.
Preventing another disaster. It also reveals another layer of involvement in the Cerberus plot, this time with potential Iranian backing. The team really proves their capability by neutralizing multiple threats in this incredibly chaotic situation.
Finally, the mission reaches its climax, the complete destruction of the Cerberus virus and the pharmaceutical plant.
It's a major victory, but not without sacrifices.
So many sacrifices. In the aftermath, President Hernandez confronts the Chinese president directly. He lays out all the evidence of China's involvement in the Cerberus plot and demands that they call off the invasion of Taiwan.
It's a pivotal moment for international relations.
Right. The world is watching to see how China will react.
Holding their breath.
And then the story shifts to a more personal level.
Yeah.
Marcus and Annie, having been through so much, finally decide to get married.
A moment of hope after all the darkness.
For sure. Their honeymoon is this secluded affair in a villa on a private island. It's a chance for them to reflect on everything they've faced and to look forward to a future away from all the danger.
It symbolizes a desire for peace, a fresh start.
Exactly. So what does the Beijing Betrayal really leave us with? For me, it's a chillingly plausible scenario that shows just how fragile global peace really is. There's betrayal on multiple levels, incredible sacrifices, and unwavering dedication from those who work in the shadows to protect us.
It makes you think about the hidden tensions that are always simmering between world powers, the ever-changing nature of threats, and the courage it takes to confront them.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Beijing Betrayal. We hope you found it as thought-provoking as we did.
Be sure to let us know in the comments what stood out to you the most.
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive, please share it with anyone who loves political thrillers, stories of courage, and a peek behind the curtain of global events.
Until our next deep dive, keep exploring the world around you and stay curious.
And maybe consider this, in a world where so much depends on the choices of a few. What responsibility do we all have to create a more secure future?
Something to think about.
It really is.
Thanks again for joining us.
See you next time.